In this video, we will talk about the Darwin's theory of evolution, and Charles Darwin has been recognized across the biological world for developing the theory of natural selection. According to natural selection, species are not constant, they change over time. So in this figure, you can see the different species of finches. So the first one, the large ground finch, feeds upon the seeds, and the bill characteristics of this species indicate that it has a wide and stronger bill that can be used to crack the seeds. Next is cactus ground finch. Cactus ground finch, it feeds upon the fruits and flowers, and it has a pointed bill that helps it to reach the flowers and fruits of cactus through the thorns that are present on the leaves of cactus. So next is vegetarian finch that feeds upon the birds, and it has a short and broad bill that can be used to feed upon the birds. Next is woodpecker finch that feeds upon the insects that are present in the holes within the wood. So woodpecker finch has a bill that helps it to reach the holes, and for this reason it has a pointed and sharp bill. So these species of finches have bill characteristics that enable them to feed upon their particular diet. So these species have evolved because modifications or changes have accumulated within the populations of these finches. So next is before Darwin. What was the concepts regarding the evolution or of species before Darwin? Before Darwin, at that time, people believed that species do not change, and there was no concept of evolution. Okay, the variations that existed within the population were merely the imperfections. And first of all is paleontologist Cuvier. Cuvier believed that species do not change, and the fossil record indicated that, according to him, the fossil record indicates that species do not change, species do not evolve, they become extinct. Okay, and this is due to the catastrophes. Lamarck was the first biologist or zoologist who hypothesized that species can change and evolution do occur in the organisms. So according to Lamarck, the characteristics that are acquired during the lifetime of an organism can be inherited to the next generation. And the famous example that all of you know is the example of the longer necks of giraffes. According to Lamarck, the longer necks of giraffe might be due to a few drought conditions that resulted in the scarcity of grasses. Next is Darwin's conclusion. That what did Darwin conclude after the mapping expedition as a naturalist that he was to travel around the world? So during the expedition, he got the opportunity to explore the tropical rainforests, fossil beds, volcanic peaks of South America, coral atolls, Galapagos Islands, and many more areas. So what did he conclude after the observation of these vast areas of land? So first of all, the conclusions based on geology and fossil record. So from the observations of geology, he concluded that Earth is very old, and it gave time for evolution to occur. So according to Darwin, Earth was not new, it was very old, and during all of these millions of years, it was the time when Earth as well as the organisms living upon the Earth evolved. So the living forms that existed at that time or today are the result of the various evolutionary forces that acted upon these organisms and their ancestors as well. So these are descended from their ancestors. So living organisms are descended from extinct forms known only through the fossil record. So according to Darwin, the living organisms or living forms that exist today are the descendants of the forms that have become extinct, and most of these extinct forms are known only through the fossil record. Next is Darwin's conclusions based on biogeography. According to biogeography, living organisms evolve where they are, where they exist. If they exist, for example, why South America has the Patagonian hare whereas England has the rabbit? So, according to Darwin, the populations of living organisms that get separated or where they are present, they interbreed and they the modifications or adaptations, they adapt to their environment. So evolution occurs wherever the living organisms are present and they are adapted to their environments. This explains why there are many types of finches and tortoises in Galapagos Islands. So the observations of finches and tortoises at the Galapagos Island indicated that there were 14 species of finches in Galapagos Islands. Okay, so all of these species of finches might have migrated or evolved from a single type of finch according to Darwin. So these 14 species of finches evolved according to their habitats or environments in which they were present, and that specific characteristics that enable them to feed upon their particular diet have accumulated in their populations with the passage of time. So next is natural selection and adaptation. According to Darwin, the results of natural selections are adaptations that allow a species to be better suited to its local environment than previous generations. So adaptations are basically natural selection occurs as a result of adaptations, and adaptations are because of the variations that exist in the population. So these adaptations or variations enable few of the individuals in that particular group or population to be well suited for that particular environment as compared to their previous generations. So these adaptations improve the fitness or reproductive success of the species. So in case of, first of all, organisms have variations, and these variations enable them to adapt to the environment that arises, or if the environment changes, these variations enable them to adapt to that changed environment. Next, organisms struggle to exist. Okay, so more organisms are present there that then can survive. Next is organisms struggle to exist. It means that more organisms are present that can than can survive. If the population size increases as compared to the resources are limited and the population size increases unlimited. Okay, so there are more organisms that then can survive at that particular location. Next is organisms differ in fitness. Organisms best suited to the environment survive and reproduce. So these are the observations that variations exist. There is a struggle between the organisms, and organisms differ in fitness. Few individuals are more fit as compared to others. Okay, so the resources place limitation on the population size, and the environment may change that will result in the organisms with variation to adapt to be well adapted. So what is the conclusion of all these conditions? Organisms become more adapted with each generation. So it can be said that with the changing environment, if the environment is changing and according to the resource availability, there should be variations exist in the organisms. These variations then enable the organisms that exhibit these variations to adapt to the environment, and the well suited and well adapted individuals are capable of reproducing more as compared to other individuals. So nature selects those organisms that are well suited and well adapted to that environment. So with the passage of time and with each generations, organisms become more and more adapted to the environment.